Greetings! Today's video is gonna be another one of my special collaborations with MEEDEN. Black Friday is coming up, and for that special event they have set up a sale, and I'm gonna show you a couple of really cool things that you can find on their website, and you might be tempted to shop for early Christmas presents. Who knows? So what I have here is pretty cool. The first item is a really pretty palette from them. It is a beautiful walnut wood palette that is all designed to be a pochade palette, so a plein air palette. Basically, you go outside, you set up your palette, and you paint what you see. The palette itself has a really nice smooth finish. It is beautiful wood. It is very compact in the sense that there's no bits that are protruding out. Everything is contained. As extra accessories, you have a wire clip and a small brass bowl. We will see a bit later how to use these with the palette. When you open up the palette, the lid on the inside is a full mixing palette, which I think is really cool because it can serve two purposes. You can use the lid as a mixing palette if you open the palette completely flat, but you can also clip your paper to this lid and keep it at an angle, so it's also your easel for painting, which I think is really cool. And then on the bottom section of the palette, you have a space for a brush, 27 colors that are included. They come in these plastic half pans. They kind of look like they would be quarter pans, but they are much more deep than the standard quarter pans we see. And then you have space on the left for brushes, a smaller mixing area, and on the right a hole where you are meant to put the little ball that came with the set. Also, if you look more closely on all the details of the palette, there are two knobs on the lid that you can unscrew. Now, I tried figuring out what these are for. I don't know if I figured it out, but I think they're quite useful for resting your paper on there, or if you unscrew them a bit and then you put your sheet and you screw them back on your paper, it holds it in place really well. Not sure if that's their intended use, but it's one use for them. Also, it's worth noting that this palette, the hinges are quite stiff, which is good in this case because it means you can set up the lid at whatever angle you need it, whether it's for plein air, so you need it upright mostly to clip your paper to, or completely flat if you want to use this palette on your desk. It is held close with 4 magnets, or 8 actually, 4 in the bottom, 4 in the top. You need to exert a bit of strength to open the palette, but it is really nice and sturdy and very solid. There are 2 other features on there. You have a screw hole on the lid on the side and also one on the bottom. Now, the one on the bottom, it's pretty obvious what it's for. It's to screw on your, I think it's called a camera plate, but it's basically the part of your tripod that allows you to screw your camera on. This way, you can really securely attach your palette to your tripod, and also depending on your tripod model, if it has a quick release, you can really easily undo your whole setup if you need to take shelter from the rain or something like that. The screw hole on the side of the lid, now I noticed that the set came with a little lanyard that you can attach to the lid. There is no instructions really, and I'm not entirely sure what it's for, but I know that for myself I would find a use for it. I think I would take one of my towels for painting and I would loop it inside the lanyard so that it hangs off the palette. That way I can really easily grab it. But yeah, that's basically the setup of this palette. It is very beautifully crafted. The materials that they use seem really, really good, great quality. The wood is beautiful. The hinges are very sturdy and very well made. I like the way the pans fit in there. I like the mixing areas. They seem to be some sort of opaque acrylic surface. It has the faintest hint of translucency. Now, the surface takes the paint mostly well. It beads just a little bit. Not enough to be really annoying, but still enough that I feel I have to mention it. Now, if we take a look at the colors of this set, like I said, it comes with 27 colors. If you look at the back of the box, you have all the colors listed and their pigment information, which is much appreciated. If we look at them, it is quite an interesting selection of pigments. There's quite a few that are single pigment paints. There's a few that are mixed. In general, that's not really relevant to anything. Quite a few colors are more on the opaque side, so that's perhaps a more more useful information when it comes to mixing, but overall it is a really interesting range of colors. I'm not gonna go into details about the paints themselves in this video. I will be making a separate video focusing more on the paint and the pigment and all the nerdery about that. For now, I'm focusing on just the palette as a whole. Now, I don't know why, but the colors in the palette and the colors on the box are not in the same order, so that's a little bit confusing. The pans are fit quite snugly in there, but the ones I was able to take out of the palette, they don't have any labeling on them. Some colors are obvious, white is white, but there's a few colors that I wouldn't quite know where to place them. I painted the colors on the chart in the order they are in the palette, so I'm just gonna keep it at that. The challenge is gonna be more about identifying the colors, but I'll do my best and you'll be able to see what kind of color is included in this set. So just a few quick little notes. The white in this palette is quite nice. It has a decent opacity level. If you look at my little swatch on black paper, it stands out nicely. White watercolor is never going to be fully opaque, but as far as opacity generally go for white, this is quite good. This set has a mix of single pigment and mixed pigment paints, like I said. Single pigments, so there's about 7 single pigment colors, which is not a lot considering. What I'm noticing is that a lot of these paints have white added in them, and you can kind of feel it when you paint with these that they are a bit more on the opaque side. I painted a little demo on my block of MEEDEN paper just to try these out, and I didn't have any issue with them. They painted out well, truly, but you can tell that there's this white pigment present in a lot of the colors, so that's something to keep in mind. But I didn't encounter any issues with mixing or layering paint. It worked out really well. I used the brush that came with the set for the first pass of colors and then for blending out colors, and then I moved on to a smaller brush for details and everything. But it is a very nice brush. I really like it. I was a bit worried because it came in with the very tip of the bristles bent just a little bit, but it seems to have recovered really well. There's no bend in the tip anymore, and it painted out perfectly fine. Now, the storage box. I wanted to try out this specific box for a few reasons. First of all, if, like me, you work with limited space, it's always helpful to have extra storage. This one I think is quite nice. It is a good size. It is a nice shape. It is quite pretty looking, so you don't necessarily have something that is an eyesore in your setup, and I quite like the configuration of it. I have a similar box, but not quite the same, which is why I knew that this sort of layout has a lot of potential. Starting from the bottom, we have a drawer, a plain drawer, meaning that there's no dividers in it, there's no separation. The second layer is only accessible through the top, in the sense that you have to unhook the top compartment and move them to the side. This reveals the second layer of this box. You can push back the top compartments really far so that you end up with sort of this T shape and you have full access to the sections on that specific layer. It's divided in 4. You have varying compartment, meaning it's not split into 4 identical compartments. You have a narrow, long one, you have a wider one, and then you have 2 that are the same size. And I feel like that's a good idea to give you a space for a bit of everything. It's also great to have dividers in there because if you move the box around, well, the divider helps prevent everything from getting all mixed up together. So that's good. The 2 compartments at the top have sliding lids that you can fully slide out of the compartment. One of them is a single section. The other one is divided in 3 sections of the same size. So again, I feel like this is a good idea. Since this is the topmost layer and it's quite easy access, I feel like it would be the good layer to keep everything that you reach for often. This could be your pencils, eraser, pens, your favorite colors could go in there. The second compartment could be for the colors you use a bit less, or the tools you use a bit less, like masking fluid, that kind of stuff. And then the bottom drawer, really, you can put all sorts of things in there. The drawer can have a regular roll of tape. You can have a ruler in there. I'm going to try to come up with a few configurations for this storage box just to give you a bit of an idea. And what I also like of it is that it has a handle on the top. Now, this sounds a bit weird, maybe, I don't know, but it is so convenient to have a handle on top of a storage box. It makes it so much easier to have it be a part of your setup that you can interact with. You can move it, you can set it aside when you need it to, you can carry it with you if it holds all of your essentials in there. You can just grab it and go to the cabin for the weekend, and everything you need is in your box. So I think that's pretty cool and pretty convenient. It seems to be really well made. I like that it's all wood with the brass hardware and the leather handle, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how I will be able to use this as part of my studio setup. Also, I mean, I talk about it in terms of paint, but it could definitely be any kind of hobby box. If you like sewing, if you like mending, I've been mending a lot of stuff, and I think it's a great box for any kind of hobby that you have quite a few supplies for, but not necessarily have any way to organize them that makes sense. Most of my supplies are just in a single box with no dividers, no drawers, no layers, no nothing. So it's not exactly organized, it's just all together. And I feel like a box like this, if I decided to put all my hobby stuff in there for a specific hobby, it would definitely be helpful. So that's it for my review of these two items. I hope it was insightful. Let me know if you have any questions or any comment. I would love to read your thoughts in the comments below. I really like this palette. I think it is a really well made and well designed item. I love how compact it is. I love that it's made out of wood. I also really like that I can use it both as a plein air option or on my desk. I know it's a bit expensive, but I really wanted to take a look at this one because I know the holidays are coming up, and I know sometimes people are looking for something special to give to an artist friend or relative, and it can be hard to assess if a more luxurious item is really worth it or not. So that's why I wanted to see this palette for myself. Also, I'll have all the links and all the info about the current sales in the description. Again, thank you to MEEDEN for this awesome new collab. I am really looking forward to painting more with this palette. I really like the way it's set up, and it's winter here, so not the best time for plein air, but I'm definitely gonna keep this around for when summer comes around or spring. And if I'm brave enough to go outside to paint, I will definitely be bringing this along. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, MEEDEN, again. Let me know what you think in the comments, and see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.